A stunning result for the Cowboys in the desert. I'm Barry Tramel along with OSU writer Gina Mizell. We're in Tucson, Arizona. We're on Saturday night. Oklahoma State was stunned by the Arizona Wildcats 59-38. A bevy of mistakes on offense, on defense, on special teams. A bad day at Black Rock for the Cowboys, Gina.
Yeah, you mentioned all the mistakes for this team and 15 penalties for 167 yards, 4 turnovers. The defense gave up tons of yards, really couldn't stop this Arizona passing game, which is interesting for a Rich Rodriguez offense. But Matt Scott had a great night, and again, just countless mistakes, countless miscues, and that really was what swung this in favor of the Wildcats. So not very indicative of a Mike Gundy team, of an Oklahoma State team. So I think that was probably the most surprising, just how many times this team really shot themselves in the foot to a certain extent.
OSU gets off to a 14-0 lead, and after that it just went downhill. You mentioned the penalties, the turnovers, the repeated failure of the defense to get off the field. It really became, after the first 7 minutes, it just became a very uneven performance by the Cowboys. Never could seem to get any traction. Yeah,
and I think the play that really kind of started the whole string of miscues was Calvin Barnett got 2 personal foul penalties on the same play, essentially. He got called for roughing the passer, and then as he was trying to get up, he kind of got in a tussle with a Arizona offensive player, and then got called for unnecessary roughness penalty. So that gave them 30 extra yards. They capped that off with a touchdown, and then it was every offensive drive it felt like there was a holding call or something that would kind of set them back. And then on the defensive drives or special teams, there would be a holding call or another personal foul. And you mentioned in post game that it wasn't the 5-yard false starter offside penalties. It was holding. It was personal fouls. It was those big penalties that can really hurt you. And that's what allowed Arizona ultimately to score 30 straight points then going into the second half. And that's kind of where the game was really put away, even though Oklahoma State did come up with a comeback attempt there in the third quarter.
The thing most people, including myself, wondering going into this game was how would the freshman Wes Lunt perform at quarterback. Well, turns out Wes was one of the more consistent players on the squad for Oklahoma State. He threw 3 interceptions, but only one was his fault. One was a very poor throw, but one was off the hands of a receiver, Josh Stewart. Another came when Tracy Moore fell down. I think Wes Lunt played pretty well.
I do too. I think overall he did play pretty solid. He set a Big 12 freshman record for passing yards and had 4 touchdowns, all of them to Tracy Moore, who obviously didn't play in the first game because he was suspended after his couple of brushes with the law during the offseason. So it seems like they've already kind of established a connection with the true freshman quarterback and the senior wide receiver. And yeah, he had some good zip on the ball. He was able to distribute evenly to a lot of different playmakers. And you mentioned it, a lot of drop balls. One did result in an interception, but Blake Jackson missed a couple of plays. You mentioned Tracy Moore falling down, and so again, just kind of these miscues. But I do think Wes Lunt played well, and so I think that bodes well for the future. It's just too many mistakes by him to a certain extent. The pick 6 is kind of what put this game away. The Oklahoma State had a chance actually to take the lead on that drive, and that kind of closed the door. But overall, I think it was a pretty good night for him.
Well, the Cowboys now have to regroup next Saturday against Louisiana Lafayette. Mike Gundy accepted responsibility for this game himself, saying coached very poorly. He said, if you want to know how poorly you coach, just look at the tape. And if you want to know how poorly you played, just look at the scoreboard. The scoreboard was not kind to the Cowboys on this Saturday night. Stay tuned for further OSU football coverage every day in the Oklahoman and here on News OK.